So almost at the tail end of the day, then you can go down the pub. However, you've got to get through us first. That's it. And we're going to bore your pants off. So my name is Matthew Griffin. I'm technically known as a futurist. However, I'm a futurist and a strategic advisor. So I look up to 50 years out. I work with the majority of G20 governments as well as the majority of brands that you're using today, basically like Samsung, Adidas, and all those kinds of guys. So what I was going to show you, whichever screen that's coming through on, here we go. Now, when we start talking about the future of retail and e-commerce, sometimes this kind of thing escapes us. The products that we make, how we make them, and then how we sell them, a lot of them are actually changing. So what you're actually watching here is a modern product in action that you would sell via a QR code. Now, while it might look slightly odd, it was created by Bulgari. It is a piece of immersive artwork that was created by an artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence then also created the soundtrack. You can buy this piece of artwork as a non-fungible token, an NFT. You can then split it a million ways and sell shares in this using something called fractional ownership. And then if you go into virtual reality, you can walk through it. Now, how do you stick that on an e-commerce site? So this is a sort of little bit of fun, but the reason why I sort of show you this is because it does bring together quite a lot of sort of more of the modern technologies to demonstrate that when we sort of think about e-commerce, that sort of 2D flat screen, things are changing substantially, but also what we can put onto our e-commerce sites is also changing substantially. So one of the organizations that I worked with about 3 weeks ago, after Lufthansa lost all my luggage, was Adidas. So I met the leaders, I met the CEO and the leadership team over at Adidas. And the day before, they wanted me just to record them a 2-minute sort of promo about what I was going to talk to them about. Now, I was going to talk to them about quite a lot of different things, like sports, basically, apparel, and so on and so forth. But the little promo that I did, I decided to hijack their e-commerce site, which is quite convenient for this talk. So not all of it is relevant, but this is me hijacking Adidas's e-commerce site. Hi, Chris. Hi, Adidas team. I bet I had you all fooled there. My name is Matthew Griffin. I'm the CEO and founder of the 311 Institute, a futures and deep futures think tank, and I look up to 50 years out. And it's my honor and privilege to be joining you tomorrow in Linz, where I'm going to be having conversations with you about what else? The future of sport. And some other stuff as well, admittedly. Now, you might quite rightly wonder what I'm actually doing in the Adidas e-commerce store. But isn't e-commerce just so 2022? Now, I'm going to be having conversations with you around a whole variety of different things. The future of sports, the future of arenas, the future of the humble, original Adidas cotton tee. Just how many different ways can we reinvent it? And of course, I'm going to start explaining to you some of the features that you see on your new website. Now, for example, AdiCash, what's that? Buy to print, what's that? Direct to avatar, what's that? Ghosting Lionel Messi, everyone wants to do that. What is it? And as for these power-ups and everything else, why are they on an e-commerce store? And selecting your color t-shirt, basically with light, what's that about? That's it. All of this and more will be explained tomorrow. And in the meantime, there's a couple of things that I have to say. Firstly, remember that the future is anything but ordinary. And then, most importantly, buy my merch. Goodbye. See you tomorrow. So what we kind of have basically on this e-commerce store is we have a variety of different things. So firstly, we have the principle of AdiCash, basically, which is where we actually buy Adidas gear using Adidas's own cryptocurrency, which means that they yield a return and all that kind of different stuff. We have things like direct to avatar. So for example, if you have a physical product that you're actually selling, increasingly you can create a digital copy of that product. And then you can sell that direct to avatar, straight into virtual reality, straight into gaming platforms like Epic and so on and so forth.
Then when we talk about ghosting Lionel Messi, for example, our T-shirts are getting increasingly smart, so as he runs around the pitch, we can sense his heartbeat, and if we're actually walking around a stage like this, and he's playing at PSG, I can sense his heartbeat as well. So this is where we now start talking about being able to use what we call phi-digital, so physical and digital products, basically to connect people in different ways. And in Adidas's case, with Lionel Messi, you could now buy Lionel Messi ghosting as a service or as a subscription, and so on and so forth. Then when we start talking about light, basically we can increasingly change the color of our fabrics, basically with light. So you buy a white T-shirt, I shine a light on it, it's now a purple T-shirt with spots. And this kind of stuff exists. So the way that we build products basically is changing. The way that we can sell products is actually changing as well. Now, if we start moving beyond e-commerce, one of the stories I kind of wanted to share with you basically is a story that I've sort of been building with Amazon and JD.com. So everyone knows Amazon, and JD.com, basically they're a $50 billion revenue e-commerce giant in China. They're pretty much China's #1 e-commerce retailer. Now, both of these retailers are trying to become what we call fully autonomous retailers. Now, it has an impact on their margins. So, for example, if we have a look at Amazon, Amazon's gross margins are about 42%. They've been increasing year on year. Their net margins have been increasing year on year as well for the past 5 years. They're now about 5.2%, so coming up a high base. Now, in Amazon's case, Amazon is trying to become the world's first fully autonomous retailer, and they have the tech to do this, and I'm going to show it to you, because ultimately they want to improve gross margins and they want to reduce operating costs. So on the one hand, basically, we've also got new customers that we need to deal with. So as retailers, we have the concept of the Robo-Customer. Now, for example, if I have a smart fridge or if I have a smart product, these systems know when I run out of product, like HP ink cartridges. The printer knows when you've run out of ink. So it just orders you new ink and it sends it direct to you. So in that case, we cut out HP's retailers. When we look at robo-customers as well, for example, increasingly with organizations like Samsung, they put cameras in the fridge. When you run out of milk, your fridge will automatically order milk. So this is a disintermediation play because you no longer need to go to your local grocery store's e-commerce site, whether it's Carrefour or something like that, to order milk. The fridge does it automatically. And there's a whole story behind these, but it would take a little bit of time. Now, in Amazon's case, what they are doing is they are now getting artificial intelligence to design their clothing. Now, how does an artificial intelligence know what good clothing is, you might ask? Well, what it does is it goes to all the social media channels like Snapchat, Instagram, Meta, Facebook, whatever we want to call them today. And if we're looking at shirts, for example, it will find all of the shirts that have got a 5-star rating, a really good review. And the artificial intelligence will say, well, if this shirt has got so many great reviews, it's probably a good shirt. So it then designs the fashion. Now, in Amazon's case, there's a reason for this. So we're cutting out the stylists. Once the artificial intelligence has actually created that new product, we can use high-definition UHD rendering to put it onto the website. So this you will find on Audi's e-commerce website. It's using the Unreal Engine, which is if you have kids playing games, so Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft, that kind of stuff. The Epic and Unity Unreal Engines have created this. So from an e-commerce perspective, if you're selling a product online, even if it's a complex product online like a car, you now have photoreal rendering. You can move it around, you can do whatever you like with it, you can go into the car. Basically, using virtual reality, you could even drive the car, in Audi's case. So what the creative artificial intelligence in Amazon's case does is it creates a high-definition render of the product that it's designed, a shirt at the moment, typically fabrics. Now, you as a consumer go onto Amazon's website, you want to buy a shirt, so you go and scan all the different shirts, you pick a shirt that you actually quite like. Amazon about 2 to 3 years ago bought a company called Bodyscan. Now, all this thing does is it just uses a camera either in your phone or in a TV or in an Amazon Echo, and using something called light field technology, it can just scan your entire body. Now, this is useful because once it's scanned your entire body, it knows your body's dimensions precisely. Bearing in mind that earlier, one of the people said basically that when we talk about fashion retailers, they have a returns rate of, what, about 30%? Because people buy clothes, they don't fit, so you send them back. This, it's estimated, could reduce that returns rate down to 2%. And the 2% who send things back just don't like the look in the end. But again, you can also use high-definition rendering, and Amazon have actually patented smart mirrors. So when you go and have a look in these mirrors, a little bit like these virtual reality and augmented mirrors, it will show you the clothes on you. And again, high-definition rendering that is run from the cloud. As you're moving, the compute power is now so powerful that you can sense the fabric moving. So you can see all the creases and everything else. So there's a company basically called, you've got the Fabricant and a couple of others, but increasingly you can try on your clothes virtually without ever having to actually wear them. So this is sort of what Amazon's up to. So now what we have is we have clothes basically that are literally virtually perfect. So you haven't clicked the buy button yet, but you decide that actually it looks good on you and all that kind of stuff, so you click the buy button. Now this happens. So Amazon have got a whole variety of different patents when we talk about on-demand manufacturing. So on the one hand, we can 3D print different products, but if we talk about fabrics at the moment, this is a 3D printed dress, basically from a fashion designer over in Miami. And there are lots of 3D printed fashions coming through. Now, in Amazon's case, their way to increase gross profit, as well as net profit, is this. You like the shirt. You've tried it on virtually. It's the right size. You press the buy button. Now, in Amazon's case, they have a robotic on-demand manufacturing system that pulls the fabric from the warehouse, makes that shirt on demand for you, and then that's it. So Amazon, using this collection of technologies, can now eliminate millions of SKUs of fabric at the minute-based inventory. So now they no longer have an inventory problem. Companies like Adidas and Nike are also 3D printing products in the back of their stores now as well. Helps them eliminate inventory. It also helps them eliminate waste stock. And furthermore, because you can tailor and customize these products, you can charge a premium. So in Adidas's case, what they've been finding is when they actually help let you personalize product, they make about 65% gross margin. So it's a nice win-win. You eliminate stock, you eliminate supply chains, you eliminate wastage, and you make more money. And you have a better, happier customer with fewer returns. Now, from a warehouse perspective, you've got your product, but Amazon now has robots basically that can fulfill orders faster than humans because we have advances in artificial intelligence and machine vision. However, we can also do fully autonomous fulfillment. So while these technologies are coming through, Amazon have been investing very, very heavily in logistics and supply chains. So we've already started running fully autonomous logistics for Amazon. Now, in that particular case, you have a robot that picks your shirt out of a bin, it packages it in your box, and Amazon have got patents around the box, so that's a whole different story. And then that's put onto a fully autonomous truck or van or drone or whatever it happens to be, and it's delivered to you basically within 30 minutes. So Amazon, from a dark warehouse perspective, where there are no people in their warehouses and where there is no human involvement in their warehouses, they reckon they're about 9 years away from being able to turn all of their warehouses into fully autonomous dark warehouses. The only reason why it's going to take them 9 years is because they have so many different products and different SKUs. It's difficult. Now, from a fulfillment perspective as well, and from a retail perspective, we have fully autonomous vehicles. Now, if you take the steering wheel, the dashboard, and the pedals out of a vehicle, like your car, you have a pod. So in Toyota's case, as well as lots of others, you now have a fully autonomous, cashierless shop. So if I wanted to buy trainers like here, I could call this up like an Uber, turns up outside, and I can either design my Adidas trainers and it prints it off actually in this is called the e-palette, or I can browse a selection and I pick the trainer and, whatever. So we have fully autonomous shops. These are already being used and trialed by companies like Walmart, and especially over in California, as you can imagine. Now, when we start moving forward, we kind of also have this idea of metacommerce. So it's a bit of a gimmicky name, but no one really has a name for this yet. So this is why I talk about post-e-commerce. So when we start thinking about the metaverse and all these other kind of things, from a business perspective, you've got your physical sales channels. You've got your digital sales channels as well, which is your typical e-commerce site. But you also have meta channels. So meta channels basically are really sort of virtual, because these three things are distinctly different. So when you actually have a look at the metaverse, which is a slow burn trend, this thing is the year 2030 and beyond, really, but just for putting it in. So the metaverse has no definition yet, but it's the bringing together of the digital, the physical, and the virtual world. So when you are thinking about making new products, you need to think, okay, I have a physical product. What's its form? What's its function? What can I use it for? But you also should think, well, what digital elements can I put into this product? So it could be a smart product, for example, like a thermostat. But then also, how could I embed virtual technologies basically into this product? So for example, if you have a T-shirt, you can digitize the T-shirt. You can turn it into an NFT. But you can digitize the T-shirt or turn it into a virtual T-shirt that people in the metaverse can go and wear. And when we have a look at brands like LVMH, they're now making about $250 million by selling virtual merchandise. Nike, the other day, basically made $22 million. And if you actually have a look at Nike's store, Nike have a metaverse store, which isn't an e-commerce store. It's not a physical store. It's had over 7 million visitors. So when we actually have a look at the economies and the parts of our business, you have the physical part of your business, the digital part of your business, and increasingly over the next 10 years, you'll have a virtual part of your business, and they'll be brought together. So these will all start combining. And when you start combining them, you get some quite interesting things. Now, when we have a look at, for example, the metaverse, it's estimated it's an $800 billion economy. When you start having a look at things like crypto, NFTs, Web 3.0, it's estimated it's between an $8 to $13 trillion opportunity by organizations like JP Morgan, Citigroup, and so on and so forth. Now, within the metaverse, you can obviously create a whole variety of different realities and experiences and all kinds of different things. But from a sales perspective, you really need to think of it as just another channel. It's kind of a digital twin of what we see in our own world today. So from a marketing perspective, we're talking about digital and immersive marketing because you market these products differently, like the Bulgari Serpentini NFT that I showed you at the start. You would market that in a very different way to a traditional piece of art. And then this is Adidas. So Adidas have worked with Osworld, and in Adidas's case, they've been selling NFTs with the Bored Yacht Ape Club. And when I was over in Adidas in Linz, especially they've got a big board in the office, they sold $54 million worth of NFTs in the metaverse. So an NFT, basically, is a good question. So an NFT basically is a digital product that demonstrates ownership. So for example, you've got these trainers. These are digital trainers. They're virtual trainers. When I buy these, I buy them as an NFT, and all that really happens is an NFT is a certificate of ownership. So it's a bit like me giving you a receipt. That's pretty much what an NFT is. A little bit more to it than that, but that's it. So NFTs, and they let you buy digital products. Now, from a virtual reality perspective, a lot of people sort of offload at the moment about having to wear big headsets and all this kind of stuff. In Hong Kong, there is a company called HKTV. They have a virtual mall with 47,000 stores. They are the world's largest virtual landlord. And they are not alone. But we've already got the technologies to let us move into augmented reality and virtual reality worlds seamlessly. So these are from HTC. They're a pair of virtual reality sunglasses. So when you start thinking about your own sales and sales channels and product development, in about 3 years' time, getting into the metaverse will be as easy as putting on a pair of glasses. Now, that means that the technology becomes increasingly invisible, which also means that people are also increasingly likely to use it. And then when we finally have a look at the customer journey, so again, moving beyond e-commerce, we have artificial intelligence, conversational artificial intelligence. Now, increasingly, if I wanted to buy a product like a car, I could just ask Alexa. So I could say to Alexa, I'm looking for a family car. And Alexa could say, well, based on all of the data that we have on you, where you live, your demographic, the kind of things that you look at online, et cetera, your digital footprint, I think maybe you should have a Mercedes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, well, why that? Now, with conversational artificial intelligence, you start changing the channel. So this is now a voice channel, but it can say, well, I think you should have a Mercedes because you kind of like your premium cars. And I always see you basically taking photos of Mercedes and things online. Then I think you should have it in red because I know red's your favorite color. Now, I know you've got 2 dogs, 2 children, and a wife. So actually, I think you probably need to go for something like the C-Class because it's safe, it's got a high, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is another sales channel, voice. However, when we start thinking about e-commerce specifically, there's another kind of customer service element that you can actually add onto the front of it. We're seeing the arrival of what we call digital humans from companies like Soul Machines. So at the moment on your e-commerce site, you might have an online system that says, have you got a question about our products? And people type in, and there's a person at the other end typing back, or there's a bot at the other end automatically responding. These artificial intelligences have neural network brains, and increasingly they're used by organizations like Mercedes, if we press play. But you can talk to them. So we change customer service, pre and post customer service.
Hi there.
Hello, welcome to Mercedes-Benz. I'm here to help you with your new car. Which model have you decided on?
Mercedes CLS.
Great choice. Would it be helpful to run through some questions to find the best option for you?
That would be great.
Okay. How old is your current car?
Let's think. It must be about 2.5 years.
How often do you replace your car? I have an option that could suit you well. It's a Mercedes-Benz lease.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Have a great day. If you need more help, you can reach me anytime.
Then it's a case of, would you like to buy that Mercedes that I've just used the Audi configurator to configure? Basically, click here and buy in crypto. So as we see, basically, when we sort of talk about basically retail sales channels and everything else, whether it's pre-sales, whether it's post-sales, basically there is a lot happening. And it's relatively straightforward to go and to get your head around. But now that hopefully you have a point of view, you can explore some of these. And that's it. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. And I think we've got a panel now.
That was wonderful. We all have a very interesting future ahead, that's for sure. I like this future. I think some people in the crowd might think it's a little bit scary, but I hope that you can fix this future to come a little bit faster because my crypto exchange box right now with all my crypto is not doing very well. So please fix it a little bit sooner than that. But I wanted to take it a little bit step back first to speak a little bit what's happening right now with e-commerce. As we said before, the pandemic has been doing a lot for digitalization as well as the behaviors changes in terms of e-commerce has been growing quite strong. But I've been speaking a lot with you guys today, and now we can see not a backlash, but a different type of behavior when people can go back to events like this, into stores, as well as, go around in cities and explore it in the physical way. We can see some new type of forces there, Johan. What do you see from your point of view at e-handel and the new type of consumer behavior post-pandemic, so to say?
Jag svarar på svenska, om det är okej. Ja, men jag tror att det kommer att vara oerhört viktigt för alla som säljer saker, men för e-handlare att vara ännu bättre på att förstå sina kunder, att följa deras beteenden, att försöka sänka de här trösklarna som trots allt finns i det digitala och göra det enklare. Jag tror att vi kommer att se mycket av det som Matthew visade här, att det kommer behövas mer hjälpmedel för att kunna förstå, känna, klämma, få information om produkter. Så att jag tror att det är tid nu ett tag att verkligen titta på att förbättra kundupplevelsen för e-handel.
And Matthew, you speak a lot about, a future ahead, which seems a little bit like science fiction, but it's already here. You just said, like Adidas and Nike, they're selling virtual entities, NFTs, non-fungible tokens, already for millions of dollars. Can e-commerces, like people in here that's selling products or whatever, even direct to consumers or even B2B, can they expect the future where NFTs, digital assets, can be sold to their consumers? Is that a viable truth in that?
Yeah. So when we actually have a look at some of these Web 3.0 technologies, things like the Metaverse, cryptocurrencies, tokens, NFTs, and so on and so forth, a lot of them are really early stage. So what we're going to experience basically as a society is everyone's going to be talking about them for about the next 18 months. Loads and loads of people. But then we're going to go into that trough of disillusionment where all of a sudden not as many people are talking about them. And then we'll see a resurgence in sort of 2027, 2028. Now, what a lot of the larger brands basically are doing at the moment basically is they are experimenting with a lot of these new virtual products as well as digital products, but they're sort of experimenting. So organizations like Estee Lauder are creating makeup, virtual makeup. Unilever, I was working with Unilever about a month ago. They are creating virtual food, and different digital foods that allow children in Roblox to go to a sort of hot dog stand, buy a product on the hot dog stand using their own sort of money or the money parents are giving them. And then once you've bought enough hot dogs, for example, or whatever it happens to be, you can go to a real grocery store with a QR code and say, I want to pick up my real hot dogs that I'm going to eat later. So with a lot of these brands, JP Morgan have built a bank in the metaverse. So with a lot of these brands, what they're doing at the moment, like Adidas and Nike, is they are experimenting. They put some money aside and they're sort of going, this stuff, is it real? Should we care? If we do, how would we build it? What features would we add to it? How would we sell it? How would we market and advertise it, and all these sorts of things?
Yeah.
So, as I say, what you see is you'll see all the press just continue to explode, and then it'll just die in about 18 months' time. But nevertheless, when we start talking about these worlds are coming already. If you have a look at virtual real estate, they sold $500 million last year. It's insane. They estimate it's $1 trillion market. So when you think about your e-commerce sites, virtual malls, HKTV have virtual malls that exist only in the virtual world that they are renting out for real money. And they are, in their case, basically, they're making about $120 million just on virtual mall sales. And companies like Prada, Lego, and all the kind of usual suspects are all in there. Yeah. You can go into a virtual reality Lego store, play around with some Lego, buy the box, you just click a virtual payment system, and that box will turn up basically at your house. So when I say these things are here now, they are here now. Companies are experimenting. Don't go too crazy is my advice, but do at least think, What can we do with it? Get a point of view.
And you can also see the similarities with their internet revolution. It's the same thing,
Yeah.
right? With the bubble, everyone spoke about it, everyone was skeptical, and now it's of course like standard to even have an e-commerce site, of course. But you can also as well just see it in our homes to take it a little bit closer to ourselves. I mean, our children today, they do not want physical things for their birthdays. They want skins, if the clothes for the different type of games in Fortnite, whatever. It's a big economy now. But
Well, the other thing I'll just sort of briefly quickly say is, as I travel the world, you've got to think outside of your generation, because I meet a lot of government ministers particularly, and as well as financiers, that go, so people are buying stuff that doesn't exist, that has no real value. It's a trash economy. It's not going to go anywhere. But children, for example, basically, they have the perception that they want to buy that virtual skin in Roblox because their friends think it's cool. So while we've got all the adults in the room going, digital products are crazy, they're stupid, there's no value in them, they're not real, kids are going, this is our life. So you think outside your generation. So that's why I put that
Very
in,
good.
because,
And we got some questions from the audience here, one for you, Johan. And the question is, what's new in e-commerce in Sweden, and what will be the next big thing for our local market here?
Ja, men jag tror, för att vara lite tråkig, att det som påverkar, eller det som har så att säga, drivit e-handeln de senaste åren, det är att det funnits väldigt mycket riskkapital. Och det riskkapitalet börjar att strypas nu. Riskkapitalet har ju drivit fram det som vi hade i den här quizen, det vill säga att hela tiden satsa på att få in nya kunder. Det som kommer att bli viktigt nu och framåt en tid, det är att se till att man behåller sina kunder. Att man skapar en lojalitet med sina kunder, får dem att komma tillbaka, köpa mer. Så att vi kommer att se, tror jag, många e-handlare som inte kommer satsa lika mycket pengar på att få in nya kunder. Vi kommer inte ha de här fantastiska erbjudandena som gör att man så att säga kommer in och sen singlar ut, utan vi kommer se mera lojalitetsklubbar, mer typer av ambassadörskap.
Very good. And we have another question here for you, Matthew. First thing that comes to mind for this particular person, what about consumer data rights in the metaverse and privacy?
Yep.
How do we manage that, and is it at higher risk? It is a very valid question.
Yeah, so it's a very high risk. So when we have a look at your privacy and the amount of data that people are collecting about you online and offline, it's going through the absolute roof. Facebook collect about 5,000 different data points on people, which they then combine to give profiles and all that kind of stuff. Now, this is where we need regulators to step in, but frankly, regulators still think that WhatsApp is a system that lets you email people through. Regulators are 10 years behind. Don't count on regulators. Now, when we talk about all of us being able to control our own data, that's possible. We have a blockchain technology. It's called a sovereign ID system. Now, companies like Accenture, Microsoft, IBM actually have these already. The United Nations have them. Now, what these things do is, as you go on to individual sites, they collect the data that's collected on you, goes on to this sort of database. It's called a blockchain. It's not quite a database, but you can think it's like a database. Now, you can then log into this database and see exactly who has access to your data, who they've sold it to, what they've used it for, and so on and so on. And if you don't want Facebook to have access to your personal health data, for example, that it's grabbed off your Apple Watch, you just rescind access. However, while we have the technology, the regulators don't enforce it, which means that we are going to be at the mercy, basically, of companies like Facebook and Meta and Google and Alibaba and Tencent and everybody else, collecting even more data about you. So just for a bit of fun, MIT recently created an artificial intelligence algorithm. They put that algorithm into a Wi-Fi router. So now this Wi-Fi router is like a radar or a sonar device. It can sense the environment around it at a millimeter wave, at a millimeter level of accuracy, which means if I'm sitting here, it knows I'm sitting here. If If I'm smiling, it knows I'm smiling. It can detect your emotions with a 96% accuracy. You can look at this online. So we have a way to invade your privacy, to get information about you that you don't even know about. And regulators are toothless, frankly. I work with a lot of them. That's it. But we've got the technology today, but it's just not deployed.
And one last question, just to follow up on that, because you have a big spectrum on the future, with all the digital type of products, with virtual size, etc. I just think it's important for us as sitting in this room. We're just, coming into an era of a post-pandemic era, so to say, and we see this shift, as I mentioned before. People are going back to stores. We see initiatives of building up new type of malls, etc. Having this digital future, but also the physical approach of wanting to meet up, and we see the tendency globally that we need to have kind of a omni-channel, both ways, entering the physical and digital world. Do you believe, Matthew, that the digital approach and metaverse, etc., will completely take over eventually, or will it be separate parts and for us to have some physical lives for our future generations?
So for older generations, basically, they don't quite get the metaverse. I speak to a lot of senior executives, basically say, okay, we want to go and have a look at, we want to understand virtual reality. Tell us about it. And they say to them, have you ever been in it? They go, no. It's like, just go in it. And then suddenly all your questions will be answered. When you have a look at it from a kid's perspective, kids are using are already heavily involved basically with virtual reality. My kids are 8 and 10. We built a virtual reality school. That's it. And in fact, in our virtual reality school, which is kind of a different market, admittedly, kids don't want to come out of it. But their learning goes through the roof. So ultimately, you've got, from a channel perspective, I can shop at your e-commerce store. I can sit in front of my iPad and I can do this and choose the shirt that I want. I can go into your physical store and I can search through thousands of racks of things, basically, and find the perfect shirt for me, but then it's not in the right size. Or alternatively, you can go into a virtual reality world, basically, where you are actually shopping for that same shirt in outer space while being chased by an alien monster. And someone said to me a while ago, which I thought was quite a good thing. So it said, when we are trying to talk about the future of retail, everyone says, well, you need experiences to bring people into your store. And this guy said, well, when we talk about experiences from a younger generation's perspective, the only kind of experiences that you are competing against is the universe. Because there is every kind of experience on this. That's what you're competing against. Would you rather go into a store and sort through loads of racks of shirts and everything else? Or would you prefer to do it another way? So this is where ultimately you sort of probably start seeing virtual reality coming in more, but it is a slow burn trend. This is like 10 to 15 years. It's because it requires a cultural shift. But when you start getting to the point where you can put on a pair of sunglasses and you can be in a virtual reality store, mall or whatever, and I can be sorting through things and I pick that one and it's tried on and then I get it shipped. That's a bit of a different experience. In which case, would you then get off your couch? Bearing in mind these technologies get better, more performant, higher resolution, and cheaper. So there's a whole bunch of tech in the metaverse that's coming that we haven't discussed, but that's
unfortunately, we do not have that much more time. That's all we have for it. So thank you so much for joining this panel. Johan and Matthew, a big round of applause.
Thank you very much.
And you can leave the stage. You can leave.